I am now about 2.5 years alcohol-free. I've probably been sober curious most of my life without even really knowing it. It was only when I went to university, when I really started to drink, expected to be part of that culture. And if you're not, you're almost an outcast. You get that buzz off the first drink, and that's what you keep chasing. My relationship with alcohol started to change. It wasn't fun. I missed out on a lot of stuff during my life because I chose to have a drink instead of what I could have done.
A massive thank you to our sponsor NTS, Nuclear Transport Solutions, who are the leading global provider of safe, secure and reliable nuclear transport solutions. We are very grateful for NTS sponsoring this episode of Tackling It Together. So welcome to the Little Blackbird Tackling It Together podcast. We're on the Shares Lounge today, and we have got James Lutton.
Hello.
Good pal of mine, actually the head coach of Chester RUFC under sevens.
Mighty.
How's the
Mighty
season?
sevens.
How would
It's
you
been
evaluate?
good. Yeah, it's been good. Looking forward to taking, well, we're 2 years now of non-competitive nature, taking it into some matches next year. So I think a lot of the kids are ready to do something different, travelling away with them. I think it's going to be a good experience for a lot of those kids, building that resilience of having to get up and go and play on a muddy pitch. Because I think a lot of these kids are spoilt at Chester having that 4G pitch, and that's all they experience, the first bit of rugby. So going to have to play away in Macclesfield on a horrible, wet, cold Sunday morning in the mud is going to be an experience for them.
Yeah.
But looking forward to it.
You're right, that is resilience in itself.
Yeah.
So you approached me to come on the podcast, which is amazing. And then we got together, we had a conversation. So I know that your perspective and what you're going to talk about is very prevalent to a lot of people. It's very prevalent to myself. I'm not at where you are, but I'm really excited to have this conversation. Before we go in, I always like to ask a little rolling question. Okay. So in your opinion, who would win in an altercation fight between an octopus and a pufferfish?
Pufferfish.
Oh, why?
It can just sneak in there.
What does it do? Oh, brilliant.
Pretends to be this tiny little thing and then explodes and just nibbles away at the inside.
See, I would have gone octopus, because I saw something on social media the other day of this octopus getting a diver. It was fine, but that octopus was not letting go.
Yeah, but the pufferfish had that stealth.
Yeah.
Sneak in, get it where it's vulnerable.
Good answer.
Okay, thank you.
So, James, firstly, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. I know we've met up recently. You've started engaging in our walking group. We've got a walking group in Chester for men.
Yep.
And I know you've really benefited from that. So, to kick us off, tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Yeah, I guess I'm here because it started a conversation about men's health, men's well-being, mental well-being, and mental well-being in the workplace. And I am now about 2.5 years alcohol-free. And really, I wanted to just come and share my story, my experience, and the benefits I've found of being alcohol-free after 2.5 years. I just feel there's a big movement towards it. There's a lot of people on the cusp of maybe wanting to, thinking about it. There's a term out there that's sort of sober curious, which is banded around. It's people who are thinking about it, but maybe don't know what to do, how to do it, what it's about. And yeah, I'm quite keen to share my journey.
So how did that start off then? Tell me about when that seed was planted about not drinking alcohol, and when did it start and how did that progress?
I've probably been sober curious most of my life without even really knowing it. I never really drank much as a young teenager or anything like that. It was never something that appealed to me much. It was only when I went to university when I really started to drink, and we touched on it previously about how Freshers Week is just this week where you're expected to go and not see the light of day and just drink. It's that culture around it, that rugby culture as well of drinking.
Yeah.
And you're expected to do it. You're on the bus, you're expected to be part of that culture, and if you're not, you're almost an outcast. I guess I arrived in Chester as a 20-year-old for work. Didn't know anybody when I came here.
From Ireland?
From university. So
Right.
I came down as a placement student. So I did my 2 years at uni, a year in Chester, and then had to go back for a year. So that year I came, I didn't know anybody in Chester. came for the job, so I had my work colleagues I got to know, and I went to the rugby club and got to know people there. Alcohol's a big part of that. You sort of feel that you need, or I did at the time anyway, felt I needed to have that alcohol to loosen the wheels of conversation, to build relationships, to get to know people. And then you create this persona that you are the man that drinks. And the more you go, the more that builds and the more that becomes part of who you are. And people expect it. And you expect it of yourself almost as well. But over time, my relationship with alcohol started to change. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. I was doing it because of stress. I was doing it because I thought I needed it for fun. I was using it as an escape. And it just became more than fun. And you know, you see it on the websites and everything for gambling, and when the fun stops. But it's very hard to do. Very hard to do. You think it's part of you. And I remember being sat on 1st of January, and we were having Sunday lunch with my mum and dad and the kids, and I had a pint with my Sunday lunch, and then I had another one. And I remember ordering this pint thinking, I don't even really want this. I've just ordered it because that's what I do. And it came, and I forced myself to drink this pint. And I just...
Like drinking a cactus.
Yeah. It was horrible. It just tasted horrible. My guts were swirling, going, you don't want this. I remember coming away from that. That was probably the moment where I thought, right, I need to change something here. And I took the decision to give up alcohol for a year. The last couple of years I'd done something. So the year before I'd given up buying anything on Amazon for a year. And the year before that I'd not bought any brand new clothes for a year.
Wow.
I just set myself these little annual challenges, and it was going over in my head, what is next year going to be? And it was, do you know what? I'm going to give up alcohol for a year. There's no technical definition for an alcoholic. Was I drinking Pernod for breakfast on my cornflakes? No, I wasn't. But was alcohol a bigger part of my life than I really wanted it to be? Yes. You know, we'd go away. I've got a couple of moments in my mind. One is when we went camping with some friends. There was 3 of them. They had 1 beer, I'd had 4. And I remember thinking, hang on, there's something not right here. I was having huge anxiety anytime I was to be going out with work, going out with friends to the pub, anything like that. I was making myself ill with worry about how I could handle my alcohol. Could I drink enough to keep up with people, to keep this mask on? And then the next day, the beer fair. What did I say to who? How did I get home? Who did I upset? And I didn't have that control, and I lost control. And luckily, I was able to consciously make that decision that this was happening to me before it was too much, and I did become reliant on alcohol.
Thanks for sharing that. And there's a real link. I've heard that time and time, and I can connect with that anxiety. Potential, you know, specifically with the binge drinking, and you're out of control, and stag do's in 2 weeks, and it just stays with you for such a long period of time. You said before about maybe identified that you were escaping, and I can relate to that. What is it in your opinion now, looking back in hindsight, that either you or we, from that rugby culture in particular, are trying to escape in just carrying on with that culture of, I'll have another. Do you want to drink? Yes, I'll have that.
Yeah.
What are we trying to run from?
I think there's a bit of science behind this, and you know, when I got into this, I started reading about it, I listened to podcasts about it, and there's some incredible stats and data out there about what alcohol actually does. And once you start drinking, you get that buzz off the first drink, the first sip, and that's what you keep chasing. You keep chasing that feeling. When I talk about this, I don't talk about how much I drink, because I don't think it was helpful for people who are maybe drinking more or less but are feeling the same way. So I don't sort of say how much maybe I drank or not. But people chase that feeling.
Yeah.
You're chasing that buzz, that connection, even though it's not there. You know, sometimes now I get the same buzz going out to the garage, to the beer fridge, I get an alcohol-free beer. That sound, that noise, that feeling of the first sip, I get that out of a lemonade now from the beer fridge.
Wow.
I get that from an alcohol-free beer, because that's the sensation you're actually chasing.
Yeah.
The alcohol, once you've had that first sip, it does nothing for you. I say I'm not into the science behind it enough. I'd love to be, but it acts then as a depressant, and it makes you want to chase that more and more and more.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That, as you mentioned, that I got into that, you know, and I've got that rugby culture in, you know, the beer tastes better when you win.
Yeah.
All that, and
Or
that's
you
something-
drink to drown your sorrows.
There we go. But
Yeah.
drinks are constant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we celebrate or we drown our sorrows.
Yep.
But what's interesting to me is I love, and I've always loved, that 2 drinks, that tipsy, you know, you say that tipsy feeling, which is interesting because that's probably what we're searching. We're searching for that relaxation point.
Yeah.
So how do you experience that now? What does that feel like, say, after 2 non-alcoholic beers? You won't get to that alcoholic tipsy stage.
I have enough after 2 alcohol-free beers now.
2's enough.
2, maybe 3 if I'm on a longer night out. But when I first started, you know, I was drinking quite a few alcohol-free beers, trying to keep chasing a feeling that was never going to come. And it took a long time to get through that. But now, yeah, I go and enjoy it because it's a social drink to have. It's not about the drink anymore. It's about the social company. It's about who you're with. It's where you are. It's not what you're drinking. So it's much more meaningful now for me. And the alcohol or the alcohol-free is a total secondary part of why you're there.
So when you described before that first sip of lemonade or non-alcoholic, that sounded like mindfulness.
Yeah.
You're very mindful of the senses,
Yeah.
the sound, the taste. How does that feel?
One thing I've become is an awful lot more mindful in life.
Yeah.
You know, I do a little thing in the mornings now. I try and buy fruit-flavoured shampoo. There's lots of options available out there. But it's taking a second to smell it when you're in the shower and think, what am I smelling? And it maybe is 5 seconds, 3 seconds, but it just allows you to be that bit more mindful. So I've just created so many more things like this in my life that it makes you so much more aware of your senses when it's not numbed by alcohol.
And that's really interesting. What's the impact of that? Your multiple roles in life. When you're getting something from the shower, from that shampoo, whatever, what's the output?
Calm. Presence. Presence is the big one. Much more present in so many ways in life. Just taking things in around you, enjoying conversations more.
And then that kind of goes on to, and I want to get into the impact of fatherhood,
Yeah.
of those roles and the impact of being present, because I know that will relate to a lot of people and me. So that's the key, isn't it? If I can be present more, if I can be mindful more, I will savour those moments, those beautiful moments that we sometimes just miss.
Yeah.
Or we miss having a lie until 12 o'clock as we're hungover.
Yeah. So presence in parenting to me has been massive. Whether my kids, if they ever ask the question, am I better since I was alcohol-free, I don't know. They probably don't remember me now because Maggie would have been sort of 4 and a bit, Sammy younger than that. So they probably didn't really know me, but they must have been aware. And I remember once I'd been to the races on the Friday and I had to take Sammy swimming early on the Saturday. And I was pretty hungover when we got there. And I took him in swimming in his normal nappy because I couldn't function properly to think of actually putting him in a nappy. And I look back now and think, what a crap way to treat your kids because of alcohol. And there's so many things like that where you're just not there for your kids when you wake up in the morning with a hangover, or you just want to get your kids to bed at night so you can go and have a beer because you've had a tough day at work. Instead of working with your kids and showing that vulnerability to your kids as well and talking to them about you've had a bad day, making them aware that everybody suffers with this sort of, don't put this bravado on that life's perfect for everybody. Showing this vulnerability to your kids, I find I'm able to do that a lot more. And I'm just there for them a bit more, a lot more. I do more with my kids.
That's really interesting you mentioned vulnerability, because I was wanting to ask, being alcohol-free, what impact has that had on your relationship with vulnerability? Did you have a relationship with vulnerability when you were drinking?
No, didn't know it was a thing. Blindly just going through life, and if you had a problem, you had a drink.
So did it mask it? It created a shield.
Created a shield. And it was a way of just, you felt a problem, go and get a beer. Go and open a second bottle of wine because the first one wasn't enough.
So take me back to start of January.
Yep.
Try and articulate what your mindset was like. How positive were you that you were going to achieve it?
I guess I'd done 2 challenges the last 2 years. So I was confident in myself that I had the mindset to do it. It wasn't the first time I'd set myself a challenge for that extended period of time. A year felt like it was going to be a long time ahead. There was loads of reasons I kept thinking why I couldn't do it or shouldn't do it. You're concerned you're going to end up being a social leper. People wouldn't want to talk to me. People wouldn't want to socialise with me.
Be inferior to them?
Yeah.
Or just different?
Bit different. People would think, well, what I've realised since is actually that's about other people's vulnerabilities and them thinking they need to drink and not seeing that you can't actually get through life without drinking. But it wasn't actually anything in the end anyway. I was worried about work because, like a lot of work environments, a lot of it is so centred around alcohol, about networking, about your colleagues, about your Christmas do, about summer barbecues, about corporate events.
And you were director level?
Yeah. And to say in our office environment that you don't drink, I'm probably the first person ever to even consider such a thing. You know, even when I started, even suggesting you going to drive to an event or something would be frowned upon almost. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things I was worried about was what other people thought of me. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest thing I was concerned about. What would other people think? I realise now it doesn't matter what other people think. It was about why I was doing it and what was right for me. But that's probably one thing that had held me back for so long. Yeah. Was what other people think about you not drinking. I mean, how daft is that?
Well, I know, but I totally get it though. I totally get it. Put into that corporate culture, we have to look after a client. How do we look after them? Give them a good time. Alcohol's a part of that. Really interesting you were talking there before about challenges. So it sounds like that challenge was a catalyst to you making this decision. But if you didn't put challenges, goals, we'd probably class 12 months still as a short-term goal. Yeah. How important is it to you now, and how important do you think is it for men who are contemplating making some? And that's a big life change. That's a massive behavioural change. Yeah. Where do goals sit in that?
So I never set out to give up alcohol. That was never part of the plan. I thought I'll do my 12 months and enjoy a beer next year. I just wanted to prove to myself I could do it. I was capable of doing it. It was that target of a year, finish that, I'm back to normal. Got about 6 months maybe through it and something just clicked in my brain. I was like, this is enjoyable.
When we went for a walk a couple of months ago in the park and we started to talk about having this conversation, I think you mentioned something that this has created a new version of you, a version that your kids will know because they probably won't remember that version before which you spoke about. How does that sit with you? And how would you describe this new version of you?
Do you know what? It's probably not a new version of me. It's probably the authentic version of me.
Ah, you did say that as well. Go on, talk more about that.
This is actually who I was as a kid. Adventurous, didn't really go into alcohol, wasn't my thing. I was outdoorsy, I was always playing armies, I was on the beach, I was surfing. That's what my childhood was. And when I went to university, I lost a lot of that. I remember being on a trip at university. We went up to the Cairngorms or somewhere like that. And there was the day hike was going out. And I thought, no, I'm going to go and stay and I'll just enjoy a drink instead. And I missed out on so much. I missed out on a lot of stuff during my life because I chose to have a drink instead of what I could have done. Yeah, so I missed out. Do I regret drinking over my student years and things? That's a very difficult question to answer because I had a lot of good fun. It did provide me good fun. It was entertaining and I made a lot of good friends and connections through that. When I came to Chester, I met some great people. Yes, those friendships were bonded around alcohol a lot of the time, but even after alcohol, I still have a lot of those friends and connections. Yeah. But without alcohol, would I have had them in the first place? Would we have connected? I don't know. There is no alternative universe where I didn't drink at 21 and I know how it came out.
Yeah.
So I don't look back with regret.
Yeah.
I'm very much now looking forward.
Were you career focused? Because you got up to director level pretty quick, very young to be at that level.
Yes, I was. I was very focused on, again, sort of you're in your 20s, you don't have kids, you don't have commitments, you can work as long as you want, and it doesn't have an impact on anybody else, and you've got the energy to do it. And when you're young, the work's not, well, I found anyway, I wasn't taking it home with me in the same way. So yeah, I was quite focused on getting up to that director level. That's what I saw as success at the time. And alcohol was probably part of that, in that bonding within the company and within the fellow people that I was at work with.
Yeah. So you've hit January.
Yep.
You've had a month off. How did you then take it to the next level?
I started to read. There's loads of books out, there's loads of material. So there was a book I read called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. And it's about, the essence of it is taking your unconscious mind and changing it. Because your unconscious mind is constantly being shoved images of people on holiday in an advert for TUI or whoever it is, and they're sat on the beach having a beer, having the dinner in the sun with a glass of wine. Everywhere you look, alcohol is pushed on you, that you have to drink to be, anywhere you go out for a meal, it's all, what drinks would you like?
Christmas
Would you like the
time.
wine list?
Yeah.
Christmas, you go to the supermarket, it's Bailey's on offer. I mean, people don't even like Bailey's, but because it's Christmas, you'll drink it.
Yeah, that's bang on.
It's
That is bang on.
There is so much stuff like that around. And alcohol is just constantly being pushed on you that this is normal and it's part of what we all do. There's loads of other books. There's a chap called William Porter, Alcohol Explained, and he goes back and he talks through what alcohol is, the science of alcohol, what does it do to you? And when you start to read this and understand it, and you can see why you're doing this break from alcohol, it really helps. I also had somebody who's in the same industry as me posted in that first week of January a very personal and emotional post on LinkedIn about how he had given up alcohol in the same industry about 2 years prior. And he was just encouraging anybody who was trying dry January to keep going. And that was massive inspiration for me to see that from somebody who's, I don't want to say what age he is because he's older than me and I don't want to...
It's more experience.
more experienced than me. But for somebody to say they have done it and the upside of doing it and how positive it's been just gave me such motivation to keep going. I was telling a colleague in the office, because she was asking me, what challenge are you doing this year? Because I hadn't really told anybody. And I said, well, this is what I'm planning to do. I'm planning to give up alcohol for a year. And she said, wow, good on you. You've got my support. That's brilliant. I'd love to do it.
Wow.
And somebody else in the corner piped up, well, I could make a lot of money off this. Should we take bets on how long he lasts? It was just like a red rag to a bull. So if ever you need motivation, that was it. That was it. Just to have somebody that didn't believe in you, didn't see the purpose of what you were doing. You've got one colleague who's there going, wow, that's amazing. And you've got another colleague who...
Cynical.
Just...
And we're going to have that balance.
Yeah.
We're going to have that. That colleague, when you saw that post...
Yeah.
Did you connect with that person after that?
I did a little while later, not straight away, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going with this. But I saw him maybe 3-6 months later and just thanked him. And I'll forever be sort of indebted to that post, I think.
Because that's really interesting, that when you see that post, that is, well, how does that make you feel? When you see someone sharing that and you're 2 weeks in, that does what to you?
It gives you a boost. It gives you so much energy to think, I'm not the only one.
That's it. And that's lived experience, and that's the power. It's what we're trying to do with these.
Yeah.
That's why we've got you on to speak directly from you, someone who's been there and living it.
Yeah.
And that's the power of that lived experience. I think for men in particular, we need that validation to say, I'm with you. Physically not with you. I'm going to write this post on this social media platform, and it's an invitation for you to say, take from that what I need. I'm going to take motivation. I'm going to take an opportunity to reach out and communicate further with that person.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it back to them, thank them, kindness back to them, validation, tell them the impact that it's had.
Yeah. It was
That's
difficult for me at the time because I was still embarrassed. I felt a shame almost from giving up alcohol. So I didn't want to comment. I didn't want to publicly announce what I was doing. I was very much of the mindset, I'm just going to keep my head down and try it, because it was that fear of failure. I still didn't know, would I get 3 weeks in and say, God, I'm desperate for a drink. I need a drink when I get in from work or something. And that fear of failure was really hard.
But that's fueled by, you know, the person in the corner putting bets on it. And
Yeah.
there's no disrespect to those players. That's a subtle, you know, that's a low level. It could be higher than that. But it's really interesting to see where that fear comes in terms of, because I'm going to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I'm a man. I'm going to be weak. I'm going to be seen that I've failed. So it's all those elements of it,
Yeah.
isn't it? Particularly as a man as well, with pride and that stoicism.
You've got to be seen to be hunter-gatherer out there, be the strong one in your family for everybody else. You know, you're never encouraged to show that vulnerability.
And how do you see it now, 2 years down the line, 2.5?
2.5, I talk to so many more people about this. This has given me something to talk about with people. I see a therapist now once every 3 or 4 weeks. I have done for probably 3 years. It was before I gave up alcohol. I needed to see him. I hit burnout at work.
Yeah.
I cried at work. I found myself having to go into a meeting room with shakes, crying.
Yeah.
And I had to do something about it. And the first stage was seeing a therapist, which started to just break down things. And then it was from that stemmed me thinking more proactively about making changes in my life.
And I shared with you a few weeks ago that I started my therapeutic journey probably when my dad died, I think. 8 years ago, I think. Just that grief hit me like it was 3 weeks before my little girl was born. He died suddenly. He hadn't had great health over the years, but it was really sudden when he died. And that's when I started to seek therapy, and then came away from it for a while. And then when my little boy was born, he was really ill right at the start of lockdown. He's fine now, thankfully. Good. That's when I started to lean into it a little bit more, and I had what's known as compassion therapy. I don't know whether I said this, but I tried CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, didn't touch the sides because I'm not a thoughts-driven person, I'm emotions-driven. And that just changed my outlook, compassion therapy. I had a lot of shame when my little boy was born, and I absolutely crumbled by his bedside. It was right at the start of lockdown. Isolation, where I was on my own by his bed because me and my wife couldn't be in the hospital at the same time, and I had a whopping panic attack, an absolute whopper by his bed. And that shame that I experienced was the fact that I wouldn't allow myself to give myself a break, any compassion to say this is really hard. Yeah. COVID's put another level on this because I couldn't accept vulnerability. I didn't have a relationship with it. Whereas having the ability to go and speak to someone, and in my work, you know, doing these conversations, I speak to someone maybe every 1 or 2 months, like constantly the same chap, and he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I started using kind of family, I started speaking to my wife more about it, but then I thought, actually, I feel like I'm burdening. So why don't I just go and speak to someone who's a total stranger? Yeah. And for that 1 hour, you know, I'm paying them to just listen. Yeah. And, you know, I know there's a fine line between, but to summarise, to reflect back some things that I've said, and then I can take that, set a goal, set a target, and crack on for the next few weeks.
And they question what you say.
Yeah.
They'll ask you a question, you'll answer it, and they'll ask, is that really what you mean? They'll ask, what do you mean by that? And that's when you really start to think about your answer then. Because a lot of the time you just give an answer when you're talking to your wife, you're talking to your parents or whoever it is. You give an answer and that's it. You move on to the next question type thing. Whereas a trained therapist will go into the why, the how, what do you mean? And that's when you really have to start thinking about your answers. And it can go quite deep, but the outcome of it has been brilliant.
Because when you go deep, that gives you understanding. It doesn't give you answers.
Nope.
Like there's no beautiful boy, it's amazing, it's all sorted, that trauma, whatever it is, that's still there. However, it gives you a level of understanding to maybe put a process to it. I get that. That's why I behaved in that way. How do I tackle that? How do I kind of change that behaviour a little bit? And it's a complete stranger. And I think that is, for men in particular, based on where we are with 74.2% of suicides in the UK, boys and men, that's what we need to change.
There's so little around for men. You know, women have knit and natter, and they have these mums groups, and you know, they see each other at the baby yogas and all these things. And I went to a couple, and I sort of felt on the edge because I wasn't a mum, and there was very little I found out there for dads, new dads. When you're, I mean, I remember our first night at home with Maggie. She cried, and she cried, and she cried. I remember being with Heather at 3 o'clock in the morning, Maggie crying, Heather crying, and me crying, wondering what the hell have we done here. But there was never, yeah, that was the first one. But there was never anyone for me to go and talk to. Is this normal? What do I do? And you know, it was never. I think dads are different now. Dads are encouraged to be part of their kids' lives. Being what you expected of a dad is more. And but to go and talk about that and understand what that is, that's not really there in the same way.
No, it's a really good point, and I've been doing a talk recently on masculinity and vulnerability and having the courage to be vulnerable. And it's my belief is that we're being shown a green flag now. And that's not a start the race, but it's a permission flag to say it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask questions about this stuff. It's okay to cry. And that's all right for the younger generations because they're like sponges. They're like, right, so I can do this at 10, 12, 13, brilliant. But what about us? 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, when we've had decades of, no, we don't do that. Now we're having to lean into that, challenge the internal voice of previous role models in our lives.
What amazes me now is how many conversations I have with people that end up conversations about psychology and about mental health and about learning and about looking after yourself. These are conversations that are supposed to be about business, about work, but evolve into it because people feel they can and want to share these things now. I mean, I met somebody on Tuesday for a cup of coffee to talk about work, and we ended up talking about Stoicism. We shared books with each other about what books we're reading. It was never somebody I had a connection with on that level. He was somebody who did the same job to me at a different company. We came together to have a cup of coffee, and it just went off on a tangent, and it was brilliant. And we just talked and shared, and it's so nice to know that other people are experiencing and thinking the same.
Yeah.
But we don't always know that. We're not always encouraged to talk about that.
No. But you've identified it there. Once we do drop the mask, we come together.
Yeah.
And something beautiful happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'd have that when alcohol was present, but you'd blame it on the drink afterwards, or you wouldn't. Whereas now what you're saying is when we drop that mask and when we let people in, we have a deeper rooted connection with people.
Yeah. The problem when you have those conversations with alcohol is it's not always you that's saying it. You don't always remember what you say or what the question, or you misinterpret a question. And I don't think they're always true things you say when you're under the influence of alcohol. People say the truth comes out when you drink. I don't think so. I think you see a side to someone that's not really somebody when alcohol's there. Because
releasing those inhibitions just gives red rag to a bull to say whatever.
Yeah.
And you know that because when you have that fear in the morning, it's like, I would never have said that when I was sober because that is me.
Yeah.
And a sober me is a more rational me, more empathic me, thinking about how that lands.
Yeah.
Whereas empathy can go out the window for some people.
It can.
So we're 2.5 years in.
Yep.
I'm just conscious you're on the school run, or for the little ones. What's the outcome? What's the output? What's the benefits that you are experiencing now and will experience from years to come? It sounds like for me, there's an observation that there's more headspace there.
Yeah, massively more headspace. So I, about 6 or 8 weeks ago, left a job that I've been in for 20 years. I was uncomfortably uncomfortable in that job for a long time. Didn't enjoy it, didn't want to go to work. And I don't think without having given up alcohol and having that proper headspace, I would have left. I would have just carried on, going in, doing the job and not thinking about it. So yeah, clearer head, absolutely massive. I'm enjoying my social connections so much more than I ever did when I was drinking. So I actually now look forward to going to the pub with people. I look forward to going on trips with people. So when I was drinking, I didn't go on my best friend's son's stag do, because I was too scared. I find that really hard to comprehend now. I missed out on a trip to Dublin with a few lads over the weekend with my best friend and his lad because I was scared about my tolerance of alcohol, making a fool of myself, how I'd feel when I get back. Whereas now, I would relish that opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd go, I'd be an authentic version of me, and I'd enjoy it. I'd have better conversations with the people who are there, and I'd be there for everybody else. Dealing with stress, so much more. I'm able to meditate. I'm able to take myself away from a stressful situation, look at the why, look at the how do I get beyond this? It comes back to mindfulness. You know, again, the headspace to be mindful. I remember speaking to, again, somebody who's in the industry he's decided to give it up, or trial giving it up. And his thing was, I just feel a more authentic version of myself. And absolutely, you go back to being who you actually are, not this mask of alcohol. And lots of people who do it say you go back to who you really believe you are inside, and you take time to think about that. I'm a better dad. We've touched on that, definitely. And that's probably one of the biggest things that keeps me going on this journey is I'm a better dad for it. I also had to deal with the death of my best friend and the death of my wife's dad in a very short period of time. Both really big characters, really important people in my life, big influences on me. And I think I know deep down, whether somebody externally would say it, I don't know, but I know that I dealt with both of those in so much a better way. I was able to compute it. I was able to process it and allow myself to grieve because I didn't allow alcohol to come and be part of that grieving process. You know, a big thing about funerals is you go and get pissed to remember them. You drink to celebrate. You drink to commiserate. That wasn't part of what I did. You know, the day after Tom died, I jumped in the car and went. We were quite a close knit. There was about four or five of us as a little group of families, and I went and drove to every single person's home to check they were all right.
Yeah.
If I'd been hungover because I had a drink the night before, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have had the headspace. It would have been about me. Whereas being free of alcohol, is the way I put it, allowed me to think of others as well and see what everybody else is going through. I was able to handle it. I think I was able to process grief. I was able to read about grief. I took time to read a book on what grief is, what the process for grieving is, how do you deal as a family member with somebody else, because you're on the periphery when it's a father-in-law or a best friend. You're not the immediate family. And again, you're the one that has to be there to support everybody else, and not having that want to go and just go and have a drink, to get over it, to help chill out, to whatever your way of thinking of it is, just allowed me to be me, allowed me to be calm and work through it. So that's a big thing that I remember from it. When I first gave up alcohol, I started to keep a journal. Little things that improved or were good about not drinking. So the first weekend we went away with some families to celebrate a big birthday, a big house up in the Scottish borders. And it was the first weekend I'd seen a lot of these friends for not drinking, and there was the usual shock. What do you mean you're not drinking? Come on, have a go. And I was like, no, I'm not. This is my plan for the year. I'm not going to. So first night, as usual, I go to bed relatively early. We've got the kids with us. Second night, again, not getting drunk. I'm enjoying a meal, enjoying some conversation. Go to bed relatively early. Then the Sunday morning, everybody's there with a thick head. I've had a pretty good night's sleep, although I had to share a bed with a 3-year-old at the time, so there was only so much sleeping and squirming around that was going. I think I had about 6 inches at one side and he had the rest in a double bed. But anyway, we got up that morning, and normally you park the car, drive home with a sore head, nobody talks. You get home and you turn the TV on and lounge on the sofa for the rest of the afternoon. I didn't. I got up and I put into my phone, how far are we from Hadrian's Wall? And we jumped in the car, drove to Hadrian's Wall, took a walk, kids, coats, trousers, overcoats, hats, the whole lot. It was pissing down. But we walked up and we saw Hadrian's Wall because the kids had learned a bit about, or Maggie had, about Romans at school, and she was fascinated by this. And we got so much out of it. So we came down from Hadrian's Wall and I phoned my sister. She lives in Newcastle. I said, do you fancy meeting for Sunday lunch? You know, you're probably an hour and a half away from us. Let's meet halfway somewhere. And she was like, yes. So we drove halfway, had Sunday lunch, really nice time with my sister, got to see the kids, and then we drove home. So we got home at 5, 6 o'clock. Kids had a great day. They'd been outside, they'd seen my sister, they'd experienced stuff. And that was all because I didn't drink that weekend. And then that just spurred me on so much. And that's when I started this little journal of why am I doing this. By the end of March, I'd done about 3 pages and I didn't need to do it anymore. The why became quite clear. And there were so many reasons. And I remember the first time I went for a beer after work with some colleagues, I was scared. I was really scared. What am I going to drink? I don't like Coke. Well, I went to the Cross Keys down on Lower Bridge Street.
Yeah.
Bit of an old man's pub.
Yeah.
You don't feel it's necessarily going to have great alcohol-free options. And then a Doom Bar Zero in the fridge. So yeah, I'll have one of those. And I sat and I had a beer with my colleagues. It was an alcohol-free beer and I didn't feel like an outcast like I thought I was going to feel. I felt like I was still part of the team, like I was still part of what was going on.
Yeah.
That went in the journal. And so many more experiences then.
As a real kind of you patting yourself on the back. Yeah. Affirming moment that I did it.
You don't need to be scared. You don't need to feel you're going to be cut out because you're sat with a lemonade or a Coke or whatever it is there on the side, or a glass of orange squash. I mean, the alcohol-free options that are around now are brilliant. There's so many more of them.
Yeah.
And
they look exactly the same.
They look the same. They feel the same. You can get draft beer. So we were out at Christmas and went to Harker's and they had a Style Pramen Zero.
Oh, wow.
And it came in the big bubble glass with the big handle on it and a nice head. And you felt like you weren't drinking, you know, it used to be, when I started, there was Heineken Zero and that was it. Now you really don't feel like you're any different from anybody else there.
But you're still, every mouthful.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I'm still on that path. I'm still winning.
Yeah. And I don't sit there and fear about being double parked.
Oh.
You know, hurry up. You know, that fear's gone. If somebody wants to buy me another pint and it can sit and get warm, it can sit and get warm. And if I don't want to drink it, I'm not going to drink it because I don't need to keep up anymore.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to just fit in the same way.
So what's next? Because I know previously when we'd spoke, you found it that enlightening. Coaching, qualifications, and you mentioned about potentially being in a position where you can coach and support people get to where you are.
Yeah.
Is that still an objective, a goal?
To be decided. So that's part of this career break I'm on at the moment, is just reflecting on what I want. So I've gone on a career coaching course, just started a week ago, and it's very much breaking it back to your core values, beliefs, and then working through that as a career. Where do you want to get to? So I'm really enjoying doing that, and because I'm not in work, I've got the headspace to do it properly. But when you try and do these things while you've got a job, while you've got kids, you're sort of doing the workbook at night and not really thinking about it, just to say I've done week 1, completed it, and send me week 2. And what I found, and I never knew it was a thing, was taking time out is so good to be able to reflect. And you know, I was on a podcast, listening to a podcast a few weeks ago. The guy who was on it transpires, he was the year below me at school. He lives out in New Zealand, and he now coaches CEOs and high performers. And the one thing, because I messaged him and he said back, you know, one thing we really encourage big CEOs to do is to take time out, reflect. Somebody else said, you know, the magic happens in the space in between. So when you take time to stop and think, that's where you actually give yourself a chance to think, to reflect.
Be mindful.
Be mindful. Whereas when you're in a job and you're up in the morning, trying to get everybody out the door for school, get yourself to work, get through work, get home, get through kids' clubs, get them to bed, you're knackered. You never have time to think. So stepping back from that a little bit, I just needed time to have a think about what I want. where I'm going to go, where will I be in 12 months, 12 years.
I suppose what I wanted to ask now was why you said yes to this podcast. It sounds like you kind of being open and honest and vulnerable is a part of that process.
Very much so. I guess what I want to do is try and normalise this conversation about people not drinking.
Yeah.
I guess I'm in a sphere of people now. Because I'm talking about it, people are opening up to me about it. I'm speaking to more people who are doing it. People are coming to me saying, I hear you don't drink. Can you tell me about it? And I was able to help. Again, somebody in the same industry down in London, we just met for a cup of coffee and we ended up chatting about it. And he's now ended up on his own alcohol-free journey because of a cup of coffee with me.
Oh, wow.
And that gives you so much internal gratification that I was able to do something meaningful for somebody else. So yeah, it's trying to normalise that conversation. Show people out there that it's not just you that might be thinking you want to give up alcohol, that your relationship with alcohol is changing. So there's a term around that, again, I hear from podcasts and things that I listen to is about sober curious. I guess about people who are questioning their relationship with alcohol. Doesn't mean they're ready to give up, doesn't mean they're ready to even try giving up, but they're questioning the why. Why am I drinking? Do I enjoy this? What am I getting out of it? That's where I'd been probably most of my drinking life. I remember I saw a message I'd sent when I was at university saying I wish I could control my alcohol or control what I drink. And that carried through with me, and I'd have stints of not drinking, and I've had stints then of going for a night out but driving just so I didn't have to drink. So I'd always had this sober curiosity without recognising giving up alcohol could actually be a thing. So I'm trying to get people to think that sober curiosity, that's normal, that's a good thing. You can take from that what you want. There's support out there. And I guess anybody that's struggling with alcohol, go and see your GP. Giving up alcohol on day one can be a dangerous thing if you're an alcohol addict. Yeah. And that's something I hear on a lot of the podcasts, a lot of the books. Go and see your GP. Coming off it straight away can be worse for you than just gradually building off it. So if you've got a problem with alcohol, go and see your GP. Go and see a health practitioner. If not, think about reading. I say Annie Grace. There's a great podcast, Over the Influence, Shaz and Ben, and they normalise that discussion. They've got some brilliant guests on there who are celebrities, but they also bring normal people from normal lives on there to talk about their journey, to talk about the whys, to talk about the hows. You've got people on there that are 10, 12, 15, 20 years alcohol-free, and just what happens in their lives. One thing it's allowed me to do is look after myself a lot better. So that's physically, mentally. When I was in that hamster treadmill of drinking, working, kids, I never looked after myself. Never went for a walk, wasn't really exercising, never talked to anybody, just kept it all in and just kept going, being that person that just kept going. But giving up alcohol allowed me to look after myself, which allows you then to be there for other people, because we want the best for our kids, we want to be there for our kids, but it's that analogy of the oxygen mask. You've got to help yourself before you can help anyone else, because if you're not here and you're not at your best, nobody around you is going to be.
If you don't meet your needs, how can you be impactful to others?
So the world around alcohol-free is changing. So I was speaking to someone a while ago and he was saying that, and I don't know whether I got the numbers exactly right, but at Loughborough Uni this year, the Students' Union reckon there's 50-50 students who drink and students who don't.
Oh, wow.
So the younger kids today, I feel like an old man now, their attitude to alcohol is changing. The alcohol drinks market is growing massively. I'm just going to give a little shout out to my mate John here. John's launched a alcohol-free cider brand called Chance.
Oh, wow. He
lives in Tarvin. He's a local lad. He's going places with it, but it's in the rugby club. It's downstairs here in the Story House.
Oh, wow.
It's in a lot of pubs and restaurants. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it from his website. You can buy it through Wheatwood Brewers over in Kelsall. They stock it now as well.
Oh, wow.
And being able to talk to him about the changes in the alcohol industry is great, because that's what he's done his whole life. So people like that are innovating that drinks market as well, and it's changing. There's more resource out there. The conversation is normalising, but maybe not for people who are of a certain generation. Life's not all unicorns farting glitter. It's still
give us that again.
Life's not all unicorns farting glitter across the sky with a magic rainbow. It's still, challenges are still there. Kids still talk back to you. You still run late for things. You still get stuck in traffic. But I'm able to cope with a lot of these things a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, challenges there's no utopia of life you ever get to. It doesn't exist where life is perfect. But what I found is I can cope it. I cope with it now. I'm never going to say I don't miss alcohol, because again, there are times when I think, God, I'd love a beer now, or I'd love to be part of what's going on. But I remember the positives. I turn it on its head and I think, why am I not drinking?
Yeah.
And then I think, yes, this is why. So I'm turning this on its head. I'm not saying I'm missing out. What am I gaining by not drinking? So that's how I've really changed the narrative, and that's what came out of one of the books that I read, is don't focus on what you're missing, focus on what you're gaining by not drinking. And that's why that journal really helped through the first 3 months, because I am getting so much more out of life than drinking.
Amazing, pal. And I think the way you've articulated it has been absolutely bang on. It's got me thinking I'm probably in that sober curious bracket, but I'm questioning the culture a little bit. So I'm looking forward to our conversations moving forward. I'll be hiring your services. It brings us to the final part of the pod, which we ask all our guests to think about. What is your little blackbird worm of wisdom?
Be present in everything you do. Be present in having a shower. Be present when you're talking to your wife. Be present when you're talking to your parents. You know, I saw a thing a while ago. People get frustrated sometimes when their parents ring them at inconvenient times. But enjoy those conversations, because they're not there forever.
Yeah.
You know, you actually look at that as such a positive that you've still got a parent, if they do ring you, to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Be present and enjoy it. Be present with your kids. Be present when you're in work. Sometimes you got to get rid of the distractions and just think about what you're there to do. Cut out the noise, cut out the ego, cut out what you think other people think of you, and just be. When you go for a walk, be present, listen to the birds, smell the smells that are out there. You know, sometimes we're all guilty of just going for a walk because you think you need to go for a walk, but actually take that and breathe, smell, be.
And that's accept the endorphins. When you hear the birds sing, just take it all in, because that's what we need. That's what the brain needs.
Yeah.
James, you've smashed it. Thanks very much. Just before you go, what is your favourite scented shampoo? What is the brand?
So it's Faith in Nature, and I think it's orange and grapefruit.
Oh, get in. I'm straight to Wilco's after this. Mate, thanks very much.
No problem.
You're
welcome.
it. Thank you, pal. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching the podcast. Please take a couple of seconds to engage with us. Please subscribe, like, or give us a comment on how you're finding the podcast so far. And keep listening. Take care. All the best. Keep smiling.